On a television show, The Young Turks with Cenk Uygur, on current television, we brought on Jackie Schechner. She's a current TV correspondent, and she actually was part of the people who were pushing for health care reform, not within the White House, but outside of government. She was with the top organization there pushing for it, and so she knows all the ins and outs of this. And we brought her on to talk about a plan that the private insurance came out with. The United Health Group, Humana, and Aetna had announced last week, hey, you know what? Out of the goodness of our hearts, we'll actually do some of the proposals in the Obama healthcare plan anyway, even if it gets taken down by the Supreme Court, even if it gets taken down by the Republicans. Some of those proposals, like covering kids to the age of 26 under their parents' insurance, et cetera, we will continue to cover. Now, Jackie explained in the first part of the interview that actually most of the things they claim they're going to cover, they'd already have to cover under the old set of laws even before Obama passes healthcare reform. Some, like the age of 26, is because of healthcare reform. But then she went on to explain what the real trick was. Now, listen to her here, and then we'll tell you what happened. Go ahead.
There's one last interesting reason that we've come to conclude is that they're putting out a message to Republicans and giving them some cover, because Republicans have said repeal or nothing, right? No repeal and replace, repeal or nothing. And you may remember a few weeks ago we were talking about how House Speaker John Boehner was backtracking within the same 24 hours because they were going to offer up bits and pieces of a new plan, and then all of the big money, we talked about this, was coming in and saying, no, 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 repeal, don't put anything else in place. Well, now what the insurance companies are doing are giving cover to the Republican allies, and they're saying to them, we'll put these little nuggets in place. You can continue to say repeal, repeal, repeal.
So that was last week. Now, this week, we find out that Jackie was only 100% right. Here's a Washington Post article about this so-called repeal and replace plan that the Republicans ran on in 2010. Turns out, of course, there's no replace. They just want to repeal the health care law and not replace it at all. And in fact, and here's the killer part, just as Jackie predicted, they are actually working in tandem with the insurance companies to do this as a political ploy. Let me give you the direct quotes from the Washington Post article so you're not confused. First, they say Congressional Republicans intend to seek quick repeal of any parts of the health care law that survive a widely anticipated Supreme Court ruling, but don't plan to push replacement measures until after the fall elections or perhaps 2013. In other words, never, okay? They're going to repeal. They're not going to replace it with a damn thing. That part is clear. Now here comes the second part. Instead, GOP lawmakers cite recent announcements that some insurance companies will retain a few of the law's higher profile provisions as evidence that quick legislative action is not essential. In other words, just like Jackie said, you don't have to do anything. It turns out that they're self-policing. That's why we don't have to replace it. We just rip the guts out of that health care plan or destroy it completely, and then we replace it with nothing because it turns out they're voluntarily going to do these great things that don't cost them much anyway. Only the parts that don't cost them much. The things that cost them a lot, they won't do at all, of course. But the third part is the killer part. Quote, those are steps that officials say Republicans quietly urged in private conversations with the industry. So what does that mean? That means they were working together in the first place. They literally went to the insurance industry and told them, you pretend to self-police, and then we'll go out there and say, you see that? They're regulating themselves. That's why we could destroy health care reform for everybody and call it a win. They're working together. The insurance companies are working with the Republicans. By the way, President Obama made a deal with the insurance companies. How's that working out? Okay. Oh, no, it's okay. They weren't going to fight it. They have joined with your opposition to do a smokescreen so they can destroy every part of your health care reform. Well, as usual, it's not like we didn't tell you. Right here on the Young Turks, both online and on television. It's great reporting by Jackie to nail exactly what was happening behind the scenes before we found out through the press, through inside sources, that that was exactly the case. So when you hear that talk about, oh, don't worry, the insurance companies are reforming on their own, it's a nonsense political trick to make sure that there is no health care reform.